When I see, oh, here, little red dot. Okay, welcome everyone to the May 19th Sewer Advisory Committee meeting. We're going to get started right away with the approval of the minutes that were sent out from September 16th, which was a long time ago. Did everyone get a chance to peek in them? If not, go ahead and take a peek.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve. Oh, there we are.
Oh, there they are. All right. And there's a motion to approve. A second?
Second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, great. Well, the minutes are passed. Let's move on with the capital project report.
Cindy,
Yes.
if I could interject for just a second. You know, I'm getting quite a backlog of minutes to sign, and I was just wondering if the committee wants me to just continue to hold onto them, and so someday we may be able to meet in person again, or you know, route them through an office mail, or if there's.
Jackie, for me, my electronic signature is fine. If you have it, I know Brandy has it on file.
Okay.
If that helps, what about all the rest of you? Electronic signature's okay? How do you guys do that?
Yeah. Well, we usually go in and sign eventually.
Yeah.
We could just have a date, have the minutes set up there and we'll sign them.
Okay.
Okay, I will get them all to Randy then, and that way you guys can sign them at your next opportunity, okay?
Yeah,
All
I would say
our commissioners don't have digitally certified electronic signatures.
And I will get with Brandy to get the city council members' signatures on there, okay?
John, you're okay with that?
Yeah, no, that's fine. If you just let me know when they're in City Hall and I can come down and sign them.
Okay,
Oh,
all
okay,
right.
will do.
Good. Okay, so we're moving forward with the capital projects, CAS aeration upgrades.
All right, so wow, seems like it's been 8 months since we've chatted last.
Seems like it has been, because it has. Isn't this crazy?
Strange.
It is.
So CAS aeration upgrades, I'm not even sure if we chatted about, we received all the parts. I don't think we did. We received all the shipments. We received the latest one in the beginning of February of this year. So June 7th on the CAS aeration upgrades, we're going to begin the installation of the new Aerostrips. In addition to this, we replaced 100 channel air diffusers and 5 channel air valves last year, and we have 100 more on order to replace of those channel air diffusers during the Aerostrip installation. This will address any more air loss in the CAS process, saving energy as well as having a more efficient operation. So both of those, hopefully moving forward, will be airtight, I guess is what you would say.
Airtight.
Yeah. So we have the Scum pit pump installation, which also was completed last year, and it's online. This project was an original plant design that needed to be addressed. Prior to this, the solids or the grease skimmings from the secondary clarifiers would just recirculate through the entire plant endlessly and make for, you know, bad process. The completion of this project cleaned up the conventional process, making it easier to maintain permit limits while also reducing labor costs. It was a task before to clean the contact channels and remove solids if you had an upset process. So now it's really, with these original pump designs back in there, we just flip a switch and let it go.
Wow.
And leave it. Yeah, so that was a really good one. The next we had the Effluent sluice gates we chatted about last year. We had the existing cast iron sluice gates that were really expensive. You actually couldn't take them offline because they were in our outfall. So you just couldn't stop flow and pull these ridiculously heavy cast iron gates off and do repairs. You know, you would have to go underwater. So we found a cheaper, comparable sluice gate that was stainless, 3/16 stainless steel, and we were able to purchase 4 of them for the price of the 2 cast iron gates. And we installed 2 of those last year and 2 of them this year. So really just a good job. That was done in-house, and it was a pretty fun project. We just completed the north side this year. And yeah, it makes it more efficient. We can clean and shut stuff offline. There's no leaks. Good job for the guys at work. The next one is the Sharples. We were initially set for panel replacement on the Sharples. The Sharples is was like our primary dewatering / thickening. That was 30 years, really end of life. And a couple of years ago, 2 years ago now, we had the control panel fail, and the control panel and the programming was proprietary. So to get a upgraded control panel and programming and everything, the cost started at $70,000 for just that control panel. We did budget for that, but when we looked at electrical installation, the whole process, we're upgrading, spending $100,000 for this 30-year-old piece of equipment that's at the end of life, and we're just buying the programming. So I started looking at the cost to run it was, if you ran it actually how it was supposed to be ran, it was $30,000 a year to run, also just with energy, not including the polymer and the employees. So I decided to look at other options that could save us money while not putting such a big Band-Aid on an end-of-life piece of equipment. It's hard to, the more I thought about it, it was hard to justify spending over $100,000 on a 30-year piece of equipment. I'm looking into like ESCO, Energy Service Company, through DES, Department of Energy Enterprise Services, and I'm hoping to get approved to sign an interagency agreement with Washington State Department of Enterprise Services. And there's just preliminary, there's no monetary stuff included in it. There's no fee to be had until engineering design. So if there's a guaranteed minimum energy savings with an ESCO and a guaranteed maximum price. So if you have a budget and you say, hey, look, I don't want to go over $700,000 for this piece of equipment, or $100,000, whatever it is, they guarantee that they won't do that. That's part of it. And they also guarantee a minimum energy savings. So part of that is they come in and do this preliminary audit and determine if your situation would even fit that. And if they think that they could save money for you over time, and that this works for your situation, then they come to us and say, okay, this will definitely work for you. This piece of equipment will fit there. We guarantee this, this is going to do it. Then that would be our option to say, okay, no, we don't really want to move forward. We don't want to spend that much money, and we're not out any cost at that point. If we do agree to go forward, then we would pay for engineering and design. The ESCOs are kind of creative because it takes, we do a ton of stuff. I have lists of stuff if you guys ever want to see of the stuff we do daily and weekly and monthly. This is kind of a big one. And the reason I wanted to contact an ESCO is because we have a few potential energy saving, cost effective projects that maybe they could take on. We also have, we can go on with that. So that was, initially they want you to sign this interagency agreement that, I talked to Randy about it, and he wanted me to approach, present, talk to you guys about it at the SAC. So we're all here. And like I said, initially there is no fee had until you decide to go forward with it. It's just a preliminary audit, but they require you to sign this interagency agreement so they can assign this project manager to you. And, at the time they talk about this guy, Butch Bowles, is who we would be dealing with. There's a couple ESCO service companies that you would utilize. And really, to me, it doesn't hurt to see, what we can get, if we can get, and then either move forward or not. But the first stage of that is signing this interlocal with them, and they've been really patient. I told them we haven't had SAC meetings, and it feels like 8 months. I've said that already though, and I was waiting for a structural engineer. I did had a structural engineer do some studies on the flooring of the dewatering room to determine if we could actually put a different piece of equipment and pull the old one out. I actually just had a meeting with them today, and they said there's just one beam that would need more support, and that was it. So yeah, just I could send you guys a better thing with that if you'd like. But like I said, there's just an interagency agreement, and the interagency agreement, it doesn't tie anybody to any money at all. It's just saying that, they agree to send this project manager over there to check it out with an energy services company to see if we're fit for this or not. And so, yeah, that was a big one on the Sharples, but I just wanted to get everybody's thoughts and kind of bring it up during this meeting on to proceed. It wouldn't be this year. Obviously, the Sharples was supposed to happen last year, or was supposed to be budgeted last year. I started researching around. I'm like, oh, it was a hard one to swallow with the money. So then I budgeted for it this year, and I started doing more research into these companies. And so it would be a budgeted next year item, or if we had to push it further forward, it would be, it wouldn't be this year again. So, all right, that was a big one, right?
Marty, stop for a second. Okay, first of all, what in the heck is a Sharple?
So the Sharples is our dewater. It's for our solids processing. It's like a dual feed. You can dewater and thicken.
Okay, is that in the room that we looked at that one time that looks like a kind of conveyor belt type thing?
Correct.
Is that the piece of equipment that you're talking about, or part of it, or what?
So I think you guys seen the conveyor belt was gone, right? Or was it? So it's in that room. There's a blue one. There is
It's in that same room.
the auger,
Okay.
yeah, the auger below it now. So that piece was like the design criteria. It's meant to be able to do like 500 pounds a day. And so we have this, was it 550 gallons per 500 gallons, 500 pounds a day, right?
Is the product of this what is shipped off? Once the water is removed from the treated.
Yeah, so this one actually can do that. It dewaters it, and it will send it to the truck and ship it off.
Okay.
Or it can send it to the digesters for digester mixing to then go through a different process. Well, this one in particular is like the redundant piece, or actually it wasn't the redundant piece, it was the primary. So it's our design criteria piece. And currently we're utilizing a Huber disc thickener, which doesn't meet design. It was supposed to be the redundant piece of equipment when they purchased it. And because of the issues and the cost of the Sharples, we got used to using the disc thickener more, but it actually doesn't meet design criteria for the thickening or the dewatering, or it doesn't even do dewatering, it just does thickening.
All right. So do you mind, Marty, if I kind of fill in a few blanks here, because I know that as versed as the SAC committee is with a lot of things, I know that this is kind of a strange concept because we visited this room several times. So within the treatment plant, we have a solids handling room that handles all the solids that are in the plant. Basically, the one thing you need to understand about a wastewater treatment plant is just a couple things happen. Everything floats in and everything trucks out. In the original and design of the plant, they had various pieces of equipment to handle the solids processing. In, I believe it was 1998, they put in a Sharples thickener for dual use and to act as the primary thickening piece of equipment for solids handling. In, I want to say it was about 2013 or 14, if you folks recall, we secured a 50% grant from Puget Sound Energy to install a disc thickener. The disc thickener met and exceeded what our projected solids would be for the next 10 years. And we identified it as an auxiliary piece of equipment because it did not meet the ultimate loading criteria as required by Department of Ecology. In turn, that piece of equipment was substantially less to operate on a yearly basis, not only from labor cost, but chemical cost, and most certainly electrical cost, hence why Puget Sound Energy was willing to pay 50% of the cost of the installation of that piece of equipment. A couple of years ago, we replaced our centrifuge for dewatering with the screw press. And I think that's what you were alluding to, Cindy, is the new screw press that we had gotten. And that piece of equipment reduced our electrical cost. It reduced our labor cost. And if I'm not mistaken, now that Marty has a couple of years worth of data, because that went online just before I left the plant down there, I think it's safe to say that it probably reduced our electrical costs too. One of the things when Marty had approached me and he started looking into that replacement panel is when the original budgetary quotes were provided to the treatment plant, it sounded like this piece of equipment, even including the labor and installation, everything, we were going to have plenty of budget for what we budgeted for in 2021. As you know, cost of goods and services, and especially materials, have increased in time. And as we looked at the cost to replace that panel, it was like a cascading effect on the dependencies of the upgraded equipment on things that would need to be changed. Once you started adding in all those additional costs, it was an exceedance of $100,000. Marty started looking at replacement of the equipment because basically that was more than 50% of what we had paid for the total job of having that equipment installed back in 1998. And looking at that, he was able to find a piece of equipment, ironically made from the same manufacturer as the screw press, that would provide an equal duty piece of equipment for thickening. And what it would do is substantially reduce our labor costs and our operational and electrical cost for that piece of equipment. It is a high potential, hence the energy services company, that Puget Sound Energy would provide some kind of rebate for that, for us purchasing that piece of equipment. And the equipment was not installed, but just the equipment itself. The money that we were going to spend on the panel and all the electrical upgrades, basically it was about 40% of that cost. So now what we're looking at is it a better value for the city and the district to replace a piece of equipment that's nearing end of life and spend a little bit more money, or invest money into a piece of equipment that, obviously because of its age, we may start seeing other faults and issues come to light with that equipment. And then once we do, it's almost like we just have to keep it nickels and dimes us to death. And so we thought the most prudent thing was to kind of put the purchase of that control panel on hold and talk to the city and the district through the SAC committee about the opportunities here to maybe make a greater investment, but this investment would turn around and give us a long-term viable piece of equipment for the next 30 years.
There's one other thing, Randy, you didn't bring out. That was a used piece of equipment. Is that correct?
Oh, was it? I'm not sure if it was. That was
It
installed
was.
before I
It was
started working there.
I was down talking to him. That was a used, a refurbished piece of equipment.
Oh, was it?
We
Okay.
bought it. So, I know that for a fact, but,
Yeah.
but anyway, so it's not only we've had it for that amount of time, but it wasn't a brand new piece of equipment when we bought it.
To start out with.
Yeah.
So you guys, just to help us a little bit, what would the new replacement control panel or whatever you're calling this cost?
That's one of the things that would have to be determined by the ESCO company. And that's why we're looking at that. Basically, an ESCO company does an assurance of energy savings. They help you with the grant funding from PSE. And also, it's like a design build project. So there wouldn't be any staff involvement, so to speak, as far as the construction and installation. And, you know, the staff have done several projects at the treatment plant to try to save money. Fortunately, we're starting to turn that corner with our debt service. And in 2022, I believe is our last payment. And then the annual payment on our Public Works Trust Fund loan.
2024.
Yeah, to I think it's around $330,000 you know, from the almost $1 million payment we're making.
Right.
So when we looked at all the factors, and also, you know, one of the things I talked about several years ago was doing what we could to maintain the cost level per, you know, defined ERU for the city and the district, so that we could, you know, sufficiently operate and maintain the plant, but also to make sure that our own individual infrastructures, we had the ability to invest capital back into them. I think, you know, I started this a while ago with the SAC committee's blessing. We worked hard on it. Marty's had the same focus, and it is looking like, you know, we're going to be able to sustain that until that debt payment's paid off. But we can't put everything on hold. We do have to have that, that piece of equipment. It is identified as a primary piece of equipment because of the design criteria. So we do need to address it. It's believed between Marty and I, after looking at everything out there, and with all things considered, the most prudent thing to do would be basically to get the blessing of the SAC committee and start looking at what the cost of a replacement, having a replacement piece of equipment put in versus putting this money into an aged piece of equipment with unknown characteristics that may cost even more money in the future.
Right. You know, I think that's all quite clear, but do you have some general idea? Are we talking millions of dollars?
No, I would venture to say that and I'm going to guess here, and market conditions obviously play a huge part in that with everything that's going on right now. But I'm going to venture to say that I would guess that it's going to be probably between 850,000 and 1.2 million would be my guess at this point in time. We'll have a clearer picture once the ESCO looks at the job, because they're going to have to really break down all the components and things that need to be done in order to transfer or, you know, switch pieces of equipment. And at that point, like Marty said, they'll be looking at us kind of letting them know what we would look at for a cost, and then they would come back and let us know if that's a viable figure that could be worked to be able to provide this piece of equipment and have it installed.
So
But there would
Randy
be
and
some
Marty also,
energy-
Mike, go ahead.
I mean, there would be some energy savings if we qualified for that project that we
Correct.
may be able to get from Puget Sound, right?
So,
That is
so
correct.
for the actual rotary drum thickener, that's the same piece of equipment. I actually did get just a complete quote on the equipment, not the install or removal. So that piece of equipment with, sorry, my clock's going crazy. I love those things. So with the rotary thickener, flocculation tank, just the whole setup, the quote was $236,670, which
Okay.
for a brand new piece, for barely over twice the price of replacing that age one, if you're going equipment for equipment, is just an amazing deal. That was, like I said, that was earlier this year before the inflation, and
Right.
That was January 29th. I got that quote. So I just wanted to get a rough idea of what it cost, but you know, as far as installation, removal, engineering, and what all that costs.
Right. So question then, you have a reserve fund, you have some sort of funds reserved for equipment replacement. Is that correct? I know you're still paying on those two large loans, but you, I think, had a savings going on as well, and a capital
That,
savings.
right, that savings that we were looking at was going to be implemented when the first loan was paid off.
Yeah,
We were going to take, I believe it was $500,000 of that on
Yeah.
an annual basis and put that into a quote unquote rainy day emergency fund, so that when these type of projects came up in the future, we would try to, as much as possible, avoid having to go out and get loans and be able to address things in a more timely manner than trying to work the system, because the goal is to establish stability in the finances at the treatment plant to eliminate having to have any erroneous large rate increases imposed on the city and the district.
right. And another question then, that's understood. Should you need this control panel sooner than 2022, 2024, when those loans are paid up, would that 850 to 1.2 million need to be financed in the form of a loan? What do you think? What's the overall picture? I know that this is, you know, there's a lot of unknowns, but I'm just wondering what your thoughts are.
So the thought process when I talk to Marty is, as you're aware, all these things take time.
Right.
We can push the expedition of things, you know, when we want to, if we have the money. However, we can probably establish a schedule that would hopefully be minimal impact on the financial side to the treatment plant. Once we have a little more information, because this is a lot of preliminary information, we'll be able to sharpen the pencil and kind of project how this would work and how we would deal with that financing. If it could end up where a project may take 6 or 8 months and it would actually lap in to that payment time. And I'm trying to,
Because 2022 is just next year.
yeah, exactly. And I'm trying
And
to.
that's a $10 million loan being paid
Yeah.
off.
I guess I'm struggling here a little bit, because I'm looking at, I think as far as the budget and the needs of the plant yearly change, and they're going to have to. So as you put your budget together, I mean, there's probably 6 or 8 things you could look at that are maybe not quite as important, but are also things that we'd like to change out or need to be changed out. Or I think that where a triage of things comes up with. What are the top 3 things that have to be done in the next 2 years? What are the next 3 that are 4, 5, and 6? What are those? And so, and if you can't put them off, if they're an emergency, I think that is the time where we look at maybe going to emergency, kind of going out and getting the money for something. But I look at these as all are just things that are constantly changing, and you have to adjust your priorities every year to what is the most important thing.
Right.
Correct.
So-
I can look back at that new storage shed we put in, and that was probably $500,000. And then I'm going, well, where, if you look back now, which is always easy to do, where was that in the priority list of spending $500,000? Was it as important as this panel? And if it wasn't, well, you know, then that's something you look back and say, okay, what things that, you know, we have to have. But I hate to think we're trying to do future planning for something that may last 3 or 4 or 5 years, but you know, but I think that's up to you. You know, I find myself not wanting to get too micromanagement kind of. Where are these, and what's the most important ones? And you know, Marty, I think you and Randy, I think that's what I rely on you guys to do. It's come back and say these are where we are, and
I know what our budget is, and we'll stay within that. We'll try to do the best we can. And if we can't stay within it, then here's what we need that we can't put off anymore, and come forward. I don't find myself wanting to kind of debate the ranking, or I think that's for something for you guys to do. And
Right. So yeah, at the end of 2022, going into 2023, our loan payment is going to be reduced by a little over $552,000. So, which is substantial. Depending on market conditions, you know, that may be a pretty good chunk of money towards this type of project. Obviously, it would defer that, you know, that earmarked, or wasn't really earmarked, but we had talked about putting that money, a portion of that money away. But, you know, there's still the assessment we have to do on the energy savings, the overall chemical cost savings. And, you know, like Marty said, the current piece of equipment is costing $30,000 a year to operate. And, you know, if that drops down to 8,000 or 9,000, I mean, you know, that starts adding back to that overall cost fairly quickly. So yeah, we really need to, once we get a little more information, and if the SAC committee is interested in this concept, then most definitely, you know, we'll spend some time of ours looking into what that return on investment is and how that's going to look with our current finances and our projected finances. Commissioner Lumberg is exactly right. We do constantly reprioritize. It is an ongoing battle. As you're aware, there are multitudes of things that impact those decisions. A lot of times it's reactive due to what's happening. There are regulatory requirements that Marty and I can touch on that are changing. So there's a lot of things that do impact our costs that are beyond our control. It would be wonderful to have a crystal ball or be able to lay out a 10-year plan that was actually a 10-year plan that doesn't get reassessed every couple of months because of something that comes up beyond our control or through regulatory requirements. But we're seriously looking at it. We think it's going to pencil where it would be minimal impact. Obviously, we would like to do it without any financing if possible, but we really can't provide you any answers at this point in time because we haven't spent the time and investment in doing that. One, because you know, this is kind of a new thing we've been looking at it, and it does take time. And number two, if the SAC committee is not interested in having us do that, we just don't want to waste the time and effort. But, you know, if we start this process of getting some of this information and talk with the ESCO and stuff, probably I would say within 3 to 6 months, we're going to have a much higher degree of understanding of what this is going to cost and how we have to look at it from a financial standpoint.
But it won't cost us anything to have them look at this.
No.
Right. Right.
Correct.
I
Well,
can't imagine that we wouldn't be interested in moving forward with getting more information. And, you know, since you put it on the agenda, I'm assuming it was a priority for all of you to get input. I can't see any reason why we wouldn't want input on this. More information is going to be good.
Right. Yeah, and we think it's the prudent thing to do. However, it had never been brought up or discussed with the SAC committee. And so we felt that it was important because we know that you folks are extremely involved in what goes on in understanding. And we wanted you to be part of that decision-making process to move forward with really checking into this versus repairing a piece of equipment.
John, do you have anything to add?
No, I'm in concurrence with you, Cindy. The more information, the better.
So we'll look forward to hearing more at the next meeting, you guys. You know, we are depending on your expertise and to make the priorities of what equipment needs to be replaced first. And especially if we wouldn't have to get it financed, my goodness, if there's going to be an energy savings, why would we go back to putting more money into a piece of equipment that's timing out? So seems like a wise thing to go ahead with.
Absolutely.
Agree.
Okay.
I agree, Cindy.
Yeah, move on.
All right, so how about the general nutrient permit?
Okay. So it's been a
Hot
while.
mess.
Let me, before I get to that, just get on. I added a couple things because we hadn't talked in so long. We had one of the maintenance projects for this year for the SCORF also was not a capital, but it was an asphalt overlay, which was budgeted for this year. So we did the complete asphalt overlay of the SCORF grounds, new seal coating, striping all around. That was completed the 26th of May. I did send Jackie my updated notes for this, but it was too late. I was finishing them today. And then we also had the fencing. The fencing was another part of the maintenance project around the SCORF. A portion of it continued over the creek there. The salt water had just rotted it, so the posts were sitting beside the ground, which was really funny. Not really, but so we had that done recently. So if you guys drive by and you see these new looks, it's pretty nice. This time we went with the vinyl coating on the fence to prevent the corrosion issues. Yeah, it's been completed aside from the gate, which is being manufactured right now. The old gate was actually broken, so we had a chain around it to hold it up. So it's all looks pretty new up there. So on to the Puget Sound general nutrient permit. So doing a lot of, we received that preliminary draft in the mail and online. And so if we actually go by the permit language for the calculation, once the permit was active, our average loading is like 16.425 pounds per ERU, with the averages from 2017 through 2019 is what they're using for this baseline at 194,000 pounds loading. This calculation would leave us with around 1,264 ERUs before reaching the initial action level. They call it an AL0 of 2015. So they're taking these a 3-year bootstrap, a 3-year average of your plant's nutrient loadings to the Puget Sound, and they're giving you a baseline to go off of from there. They're giving you a tiny bit of play in that, so you don't have to act instantly and you're not triggering that action limit instantly. So our first action level is 215,000 pounds, and for our 2017 to 2019 is 194,235 pounds actually. So AL0, if we do hit that AL0, which is just nutrient loading, ammonia, the total inorganic nutrients. So the AL0 is optimization actions that focus more on operational strategies with very little of any equipment procurement. So it would be like adjusting process controls to try and, remove your ammonia or nitrify and denitrify. That's if you hit that first action level. The second one comes with, if you hit the action level 1, they call it, then they want you to spend 5% of your operational budget to upgrade. And so that was just a preliminary draft. So the formal draft of the nutrient general permit is due out by close of business on June 16th of this year of 2021, with the public comment period ending on August 21st. So I just wanted to give you, I guess, a update of where we were as far as the loading, where the action level is on that preliminary draft permit, and the kind of the ERUs we have left if we're just averaging that, the 1,264 before we reach that first limit number. Any questions on that?
So keep in mind that the numbers that Marty has given you obviously is based on the preliminary draft permit. They have not written in stone what that would be. And that is the current operation of the plant. Marty and I can both tell you that there's some things that can be done instantaneously without any incurred equipment cost, where we would increase that ERU capacity. But we don't really know how they're going to define this in the final permit. but it's looking like they're going to stick with the preliminary bootstrap calculations and that determination. If you remember, I had provided a PowerPoint on what that looked like when we had just some very rudimentary information. Using this new information from the, what was it, the preliminary draft permit that they had put out, and in conversations that Marty had with Northwest Regional Ecology permit managers, it appears that the numbers that we provided were actually a little on the low side by less than 200. So we're looking at the presentation that I had given you and the numbers I put out and the things that we described within there to be able to reduce those percentages, feeling pretty confident based on the preliminary information that we have right now of sustaining most of the capacity that was originally identified within the design criteria of that treatment plant. It doesn't mean that it's going to not exclude here in the future of having some equipment purchases and perhaps some process modifications, but we feel that we have some flexibility and we have some wiggle room. This is not the so-called death sentence to the treatment plant and the ability of the city and the district, as I'm sure you folks are aware, and the booming growth in the area, to kind of squelch growth in our area because of the lack of capacity in the treatment plant. It does shorten that timeline on what everybody originally thought, but we believe that once this comes out, if things remain as consistent as they are, that the district is going to be pretty good for probably the next 15 to 20 years, depending on growth. Because there was I can't remember if we used 1.5 or 2% growth when I had done those spreadsheets. But we feel that we're going to be in a pretty good position and not scrambling. And, you know, if anything, there might be some minimal impact to growth. But it gives the city and the district plenty of time to look at some alternatives so that things can be done for, you know, either that treatment plant or, you know, scalping plants or building another treatment plant, whatever needs to be done in the future going, you know, beyond 2035, 2040.
So basically you're saying it's pretty good news.
Well, it's never good news when regulatory agencies want to come in and start imposing things on you.
I know,
One of the
I
things that Marty didn't bring up is just the simple fact of going through this nutrient general permit based on the preliminary information that we have. It's going to impose, you know, between another $15,000 to $20,000 a year in testing fees that we're going to be required to incur.
I don't believe I forgot the name.
$15,000 to $20,000 a year. They're just, yeah, we can't avoid that.
Yeah. And
So how often do you have to go through this process with the permit? How often? Is that yearly?
Every
What
5
is
years.
this?
Every 5 years.
5? Okay. So, and you guys are pretty optimistic that we're going to be doing pretty well right now and that we can handle growth moving forward.
Based on the preliminary information that we have, yes.
It sounds like the point I get out of it, if I can interject here, is that it's not that it's necessarily good news, it's just that the news isn't as bad as we originally thought.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one of the things that we were fortunate in is that the city and the district was pretty open for some of the improvements that we made in the plant over the years. If you think about it, over the last 8 or 9 years, we've invested a lot of money into some upgrades in the plant, and those are going to pay dividends, especially with this happening. For instance, the upgrade to the MBR, we know that we can drop that discharge loading by probably up to about 10%. Simply by just with the new cassettes of turning up the production rates in the MBR. So we've got some latitude there. And so we've got a few things that can be done operationally that will help curtail some of those impacts. so that we're not out, capital in the treatment plant to try to catch up. We believe we're in a position where we have planning time and wiggle room versus trying to scramble to meet requirements.
Okay, great.
And that's kudos to the SAC for allowing some of these projects. And I know that you folks don't fully understand all the impacts and dependencies on some of these things that have been done over time. But I think this is where the dividends will start paying off for a lot of those projects.
So June 16th is when this whole thing is due, all the information is due. And when do you usually hear back? Is it pretty quickly?
So that's the draft permit. They're going to issue the draft permit. And then I had talked to, and I can't remember the gentleman's name, from Ecology, and they said that their goal is to issue the actual permit and impose its requirements no later than the end of 2021.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, so we'll really hear a whole lot more at the next meeting on that.
If it's after June, we'll actually have a draft that they're looking at adopting, yes.
Sounds good. Is there any more to add on that? Anyone?
That for me, that was all I had.
Wait a minute. This was on your report too, right, Marty?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we did receive that plaque for the 2019 performance award from the Department of Ecology for the violation-free year.
Oh, wow.
Congratulations.
Yes, this should be posted like everywhere.
Wow.
You received a plaque from the Department of Ecology? Oh my word, yay.
Yeah.
Very
Kind of a skippy
cool.
plaque, but
I know, it's hard to read what's on there. I hope it's displayed in a prominent position. We should get a photo of that. And actually, if you don't mind, Randy
Have a
and
press
Marty.
release.
Well, I think we would like to get this on the website when it comes to our utilities. This is something to really let people know
The
about.
website, and I think we should have a press release myself,
It's an excellent thing. It
Yeah,
really
we've
Yeah,
got
is.
this several
absolutely.
times, but we have never really worked with it as far as getting it out to the public that we've been doing a really outstanding job.
I
So,
like that idea.
Well,
council
where do we
members,
stand?
is this
Where do we stand
something
for
that-
last year?
So
I'm sorry.
2020 also, we'll be getting another one. We went violation-free for 2020 as well.
That's what I was asking. I don't want to, I would say if we're starting to crow about 2019, but then we turn around next week and find out that we had 5 violations last year.
No,
It's like,
no, ecology's
oh.
really backed up. So it actually took us until December of 2020 to get that notification. So 1 full year to even receive that. So I'm guessing we'll hear about 2020 in December of this year. But 2020 was also violation-free year for the plant.
Awesome. Could
So
we
is
get
that-
a group?
is that-
I'm sorry, Jackie. Go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, is that something that you would like to have our public, our community, the person that the city has doing press releases and whatnot?
Yes, let's get that. Let's get that out.
Okay,
It
Marty,
always pays to have good news move forward. We hear plenty of the opposite, and that's huge for us. We've got all this growth going on, and we want to. This is a good thing to crow about. So a great picture of the plaque as well as the photo you have with your crew. I think
Yeah,
that would be good.
I think it attributes to like for me, the support all the way around from the West Sound to the SAC committee to the guys on the crew. Everybody, it's pretty easy to like working there, and with the support of everybody, it works pretty good for us.
so
Very
Marty,
cool.
if you could please get me a picture of the plaque so that you can actually read it, and then probably be thinking about your sound bite, because probably this person is going to want to reach out to you and get a quote.
Oh, no problem.
I would recommend that somehow that we try to focus the picture maybe of Marty and the staff, since they are 95% of what makes that happen. So, I mean, I appreciate, Marty, your comments about us and what we do, and it is part, but there again, most all of that comes from your guys' hard works. And I think that with a picture of them with the plaque would be pretty much, I couldn't say it any better than to put them out front.
Yeah, Jackie had just had that great photo, so perfect, awesome. All right, the Marina pump station update. What do you have on that?
Well, we are bypassing, I think we reported last time that we're bypassing the 60% plans and going directly to 80%. Had a few challenges with where to place the new gen set, and you know, I mean, in the utility committee, John and Cindy, you've heard us talk about this. We've had some challenges with that, and also keeping the Bay Street pathway working toward, because we're no longer, because of budget constraints, no longer able to do the underground bunker. But we think we've got it down to a dull roar now. We also have gotten verbal confirmation, nothing in writing yet, but verbal confirmation that we will be approved for the $13 million loan to complete this project. So we're hoping to be, right now the schedules show that we should be done with the design engineering, I'm knock on wood, by the end of this year, so that we can go into construction in 2022.
Great. I know that project, the cost of that project I can't believe what they started at and what they're ending at.
It's bounced all over the place for one thing, and we also were held up for a long time by the downtown Imagine Port Orchard group, you know, because they couldn't decide exactly, we didn't know what to design around, so.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, we're moving forward and we sure need to. There's going to be a lot happening soon. So, okay, end of 2021, we're hoping for that. Okay, with construction actually starting next year.
That's the hope.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else that we need to discuss?
I think you probably need to talk about next meeting, because we're going to be moving up into budget time before too awful long, since this has been 8 months since the last meeting. So
Yeah. Okay. Marty and Randy, what are you thinking?
We usually, if memory serves me correctly, I'd have to take a look, is around October is when we provide the budget information to the Sewer Advisory Committee.
Mm-hmm.
I believe we have an interlocal agreement identified as October 10th. So we'll want to get that to you folks probably sometime before October 10th or in September. And then obviously we have some months between now and that point. So I think that we could easily have 1 or 2 more meetings and in between, and then hopefully get everybody up to speed on all the things that are happening. Also, we're kind of excited to be able to come back and provide you some information on what we find out on that replacement equipment for that Sharples centrifuge, and we'll move forward on that. So with that said, it is now, I would say, maybe July and September, late September, if that would meet everybody's need, would be something that would be palatable.
So July, the third Wednesday would be July 21st. Should we go for that? Jackie, does that work for you? Oh, that works for you, Jackie? Okay.
I'll work around you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so a short meeting update on July 21st, and then we'll aim for that budget meeting in September.
Yeah, late September, early October. You know, we'll kind of, I would say, let's see where we're at when we get further into the year.
Okay.
And we're kind of optimistic that some of these COVID restrictions are going to be minimized or eliminated here, you know, within the next few months.
The end of June, it sounds like. We're looking at in-person meetings at the city coming up in July.
Well, if we're going to meet in July, then maybe I'll just hang on to the minutes and not make everybody make a trip or anything.
Whatever you want to, whatever works for you.
We go in to sign about every month anyway for something, so it doesn't matter to us. We can sign it
Well,
now.
I'll adjust to Jackie's needs. It doesn't, no sweat off my brow. Jackie, if you need those signed before that time, then like I said, drop them off with Randy and then we'll coordinate to get them signed, get them back to you. But if it isn't that much of a priority for you, yeah, let's do maybe the July if we have the actual meeting.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jerry. I just need to let Janine, our assistant city clerk, know what's going on. Because we do have the recording, so it isn't like there's a black hole of information about the SAC. The recordings are available on our website, so.
Okay, and then speaking of all of this, would you prefer to have a meeting in person in July or to go ahead and Zoom or a hybrid?
Well,
It's at the will of the SAC committee.
Jack, that we've got a lot of catching up to do.
Mhm.
So it's not always easy to say that you can be at every meeting now. So, okay, we'll try for a hybrid then on the 21st, and otherwise it will be at where? The city?
You know, I
Well-
think if we do have it in person, it would be nice to have it at the treatment plant so you folks could see some of the progress and things that have been done since you were there. I think it was a little over a year and a half ago.
Sounds
I would
good.
agree.
Yep, I agree. So treatment plant on July 21st, but with the opportunity to also attend on Zoom.
Right.
Okay.
Jackie, you'll send out a meeting request or meeting notice?
I will, yes, when I get the minutes done and stuff. And then I'll send it again when we get closer to it. I apologize for this. We had this originally planned for last month and then I sent it out right away last month and I'm sure it got to the bottom of everybody's inbox. So I should have sent it out earlier.
We're good.
And
Jackie,
if
we're
we're
good.
gonna-
Thank
If we're
you.
gonna do a hybrid meeting, I should warn you that I need to do that from, I won't be able to do it at the plant. I myself will be Zoom so that others can Zoom if they need to, so.
Oh, that's right. That would be one thing about doing it at the treatment plant. Do you have the capability of having a Zoom call in that meeting?
We have Wi-Fi capability, yes.
Okay. Okay, so we could actually do the hybrid there. Okay. Great. This has been a very good meeting and thank you for catching us up.
It was good seeing all of you.
Likewise,
I'm
likewise.
glad
And
everybody's healthy.
yeah, isn't that nice? Everyone made it. Hey, is everyone vaccinated? Are you going to get vaccinated? Yeah, me too.
Done and done.
Marty, are you going to get vaccinated?
No, I have been.
You have been?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, sounds good. So see you, this time will fly so quickly. We'll see you in a month or so too.
Okay.
All right, thank you again very much.
Yes. Thank you all. It was a pleasure seeing you.
Bye.
Thank you,
you.
everyone.